Okay, so what I have here is just a simple screen stretcher. It's something I kind of came up with on my own, so I just wanted to share with you guys. Basically, it's what I picked up around the house. Just have some random 2x4s, a couple 2x2s, a piece of cardboard. I'll tell you why when I put the screen in there, and a piece of plywood. And then besides that, the things that I actually had to put money towards, a couple C-clamps. Some people call them G-clamps, and the hardware that I just picked up off of Amazon, and I'll put the link down below. This is just a threaded insert, which allows you to push the screen, and a knob. These came separately, but I think altogether this was about 30 bucks for enough for all these. And then the little caps, which I don't have one that's not connected, but they're just simple caps, and like I said, I'll put the link to Amazon down below. This right here, this is just a little scrap that I had laying around the house. I think it was a better idea than it is in practice, but you could just use a 2x4 or a 2x2 or whatever you have to hold it down. It's just simply to hold the screen down so the screen doesn't pop up when you're stretching it. So anyway, super simple. I just drilled a 1/2-inch hole through here, put the insert on the inside, screwed this through for the pusher. So very simple, and I've had some pretty good results. Obviously, as you can see, I'm outside. I'm not a professional. It's just something that I've picked up as a hobby. Picked up a couple used screens that there's little tiny holes in them. The screens were $5, so I figured why not. And pick that up. So I'll walk through the process a little bit and show you kind of the results that I get. It's nothing too complicated. It's all pretty simple. And like I said, it's just a hobby for me. Something that I thought I'd give a shot, and hopefully it'll help some of you guys out. It's something that I think I put the whole thing together. Obviously, I just have the scraps. Right now, with the price of wood, it might cost you $75, $80 if you have to buy a piece of plywood, but these are things that you have laying around. So basically all I did was I measured it out. I did use wood glue, but also some screws, just to give it a little bit of stability, and so far it's worked out pretty good. So there's a couple tweaks that maybe I'll try to do at some point, but for now this is kind of fit my purposes. So really simply, I'm definitely looking for a new solution to this. This is the DAP Rapid Fuse all-purpose adhesive. It's worked pretty well, but I think I've done 2 screens for one bottle, and that's not very economical. So I definitely need to come up with a solution for that. As far as the screen, I just cut up the screen that I got from Amazon. It comes in, if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 yards by 50 inches or 52 inches. So basically I could get about 6 screens out of that one piece, and those were about $15. So anyway, I'll put this together and I'll show you what that looks like. So first I just start off with a corner, and I put quite a bit of glue down here just as my base to start off with, and I just let that dry, spread it out as evenly as I can, and then I like to make sure that this dries really well before I go any further. One thing that I'm very careful about is trying to make sure you don't get any glue, little tiny drips, or touch it with your hands, get little tiny spots on the screen, because obviously that won't work out well. So I'm going to let that dry for a couple minutes. I usually let it dry for 3 or 4 minutes. Just to be safe, and then we'll go from there. One of the things I also did with these old screens was, after I cleaned everything off, I sanded it down just with my little radial sander. Not a lot, obviously. It still has that red paint on it, or the old adhesive, but just to get as much of the adhesive off, and also just to rough it up a little bit so that when you glue it, the glue has something to really bite into. So it's actually come out pretty well so far. Worked for me so far, and hopefully some of you guys will give this a shot. I'm not trying to make a really tight stretch here. I'm just trying to make sure that it's even along the edges. And I just definitely don't want to pull this off. So give a nice little glue, and then I just run a bead down. I like to get the bead close to the inside so I can scrape it away from the screen here. Just spread that glue out a little bit. And then as you see, as I'm running this down, the glue kind of stretches right to the edge of the screen, which I think is pretty good. So I definitely want this. So I usually go down, make sure that I stay off of the screen here, but also get right up along this edge. Stretch this down. I'm sure I'm probably using a little more glue than I absolutely need to, but figure more is better than not enough. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. Again, I'm just going to line up this edge here. I'm not too worried about anything except for just making sure these edges are straight. And I guess right now I'm worried about the wind blowing my screen over. So I'm again going to put this bead right down the edge here so I can get as close to the edge, to the inside of the screen as I can. Just stretch it away so I don't accidentally put the glue into the screen that's going to be used. I'm sure it's probably not that big of a deal because I've never actually used this area anyway, but just think it's a good idea. Okay, so now that I've got these two sides done, I'm gonna let it dry for a good couple minutes. This stuff says it's gonna dry in 30 seconds, but I give it 3 or 4 or 5 minutes with the wind blowing on it. Obviously, as you can tell, my assistants, they've decided that they're a little bored and they're ready to move on. So anyway, I'll be back in a couple minutes and we'll go from here. Like I said, I'm going to let it dry for 4 or 5 minutes just to make sure it's tight on there. Okay, so this is dried up. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2x2. I put a little angle in it. I don't really think that's necessary. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is I also put a piece of cardboard in the bottom here because a screen is just a little bit shorter than a 2x2. So it was giving me a weird little angle here. So I wanted to lift that screen up so that the actual screen mesh was coming down over the top, not being lifted up. It made it really almost impossible to glue. So I put that little piece of cardboard in there to lift the screen up just a little bit. Seems to work out really well to make that angle a little bit better. So I'm just gonna come here. Again, I don't want to go crazy here. I'm not trying to super stretch this thing, but I do want to give it a nice little tug on here to tighten that up a little bit. And simple C-clamp here. And I actually kind of make sure that this is nice, that the clamp is nice and tight. You don't want that thing slipping out as you're going. So pull this thing out. And the screen is sitting against these pads so that it's all the way in, and I have these screwed out as far as I can, so I have as much play as I need here. So again, I'm just gonna give it a little tug. It's obviously not tight at all, but just to give it a little bit of tautness here. And again, I'm gonna make sure I make sure I give it just a little bit of tightness because I don't want that thing slipping out as I go. So I'm just going to do the same thing here. Pull this. It's now a little bit tighter, but again, I'm not trying to stretch it right now. I'm just trying to get this screen, hold this screen down so that when I actually do stretch it, it doesn't go anywhere. That looks pretty good there. Okay, so as you see, I mean, this thing is not tight at all, but you know, we've got what, about 3 inches here, 3 inches here that I could push it, and I'm not going to push it anywhere near that. It might go 3/4 of an inch. So then again, on this side, you could just as easily use a 2x4 or a 2x2, just something to hold this down. This just keeps this from lifting up as I'm stretching it. So I'm just going to put that down here. Again, I thought this would be really cool, and it's kind of lame and a pain. I'll probably replace that at some point, but still, the idea is just to hold this corner down so it doesn't lift up with the stretching. So now, just really simply, you know, we're gonna, and I don't really have any set pattern. I just kind of want to twist this thing in. As you can see, this side's a little bit loose, so I'm just gonna push it down. So as you can see, this side's starting to come tight. This side's a little loose still, so I'm gonna work this side out. I have not ripped a screen or anything, and I've given these things a pretty good little push here to try to make this thing tight. As you can see, it's starting to come tight a little bit. And I do not have whatever the meter to measure how tight the screen is, because again, this is not a professional job. This is just a little bit of a hobby, something that I do on my own. You can see it's starting to come together, and I just work around. I just work around a little bit. As you push one, the next one becomes a little bit looser. So I like to push these things. So now you can see it's really close. This side needs just a little bit more. Try not to overdo it since we're on camera right now. We're trying to turn into the Incredible Hulk and make it really, really tight and rip a screen. That's not what I'm going for here. So really, just pushing this thing out. Just, like I said, just working my way around. I'm starting to get really pretty close to where I want it here at this point. Nice and tight. Nice and tight all the way around. And I just work it until I feel like it's as tight as I need it to be. It's getting close. This area here is really tight. That area down there needs a little bit more. So one thing that I like to do before I start gluing is make sure that it's pretty even all the way across. Right now I've got a little bit pretty tight here and it's a little loose here, so I'm just gonna push it down a little bit. See if I can't tighten that up a little bit. And there we go. I just like to keep working it until I'm happy with it, and it's really nice all the way across. So I feel pretty good about this. I could probably, I guess basically I'm just afraid to tear the mesh, because I could probably really get it really close to what they come out in, but I don't think, for my purposes, I don't think that they need to be overdo it to the point where I would want to tear the screen. So anyway, so I got that to where I need it to be. Then I just go back to the glue. Start off in the corner. And it looks like for a $5 screen that I bought used, and like I said, all the parts probably added up to $50 or $60, and then a little bit of scrap wood is really all it took. So kind of an enjoyable little project, and something that when you look at the screen stretchers on Amazon or other places, they're $200, $300, $400, $500. I think this actually comes out and gives you a pretty good result. So I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you guys maybe take a look at it and enjoy, and maybe some of you guys can give me some tips or advice or something that you see that maybe I'm not seeing that I could do, maybe make it a little bit better or whatever. Because like I said, this is just a concept, something that I've been fooling around with out in the yard, and you know, hopefully it'll help somebody out. So at least save a couple bucks, and until you want to get serious about it, because as a hobby, this hobby can get a little bit expensive, and if you could save a couple bucks here and there, probably not a bad idea. So anyway, from there I'll just get my knife out. And I'll just run my knife down along the screen on both sides as soon as this thing gets dried up a little bit. So I'll give it a couple minutes, and then we'll cut it off and take a look at it. Okay, so the glue's had a chance to dry. Basically what I usually do, I just kind of give this just back it off just a little bit. I don't take it all the way out because I want it to be a little bit tight. Tight here when I cut this. And I just kind of run my knife right down the edge, as tight as I can there, so I don't have to worry about trimming it. So there you have it. Pretty simple. I pulling this thing out. It's pretty tight. Like I said, it's far from perfect. I'm sure with a little bit of practice I'll refine the technique a little bit and maybe make it a little bit easier, but you can bounce a quarter off of it, and you know, seems to do the job. So I've only done like I said about 3 of these screens, but it's nice and tight and pretty economical. So I hope somebody gets some enjoyment out of this, and maybe can get some use out of it. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Don't subscribe. Just you know, if you can get some use out of it, then I guess it was worth the time. So have a great day.